Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks so much for joining us this afternoon to celebrate the International Women's Day. I'm Sigrid Shalsita, CEO of APREA, and joining you from live from the Singapore Sustainability Academy. Today, we celebrate all women in all their diversity, specifically celebrating our progress, raising awareness, as well as showcasing our commitment to gender parity. Now, before I continue, I would like to make a few acknowledgements. The event is made possible through the generosity and our partnership with City Developments Limited, which has always been at the forefront of championing gender diversity, and the Singapore Sustainability Academy for hosting us. This year's theme, Break the Bias, asks us to imagine a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where our differences are valued and celebrated. So today, by design, we have invited inspiring women in the real assets industry from different countries across Asia Pacific. I'm very grateful that they all have kindly obliged to share with us their stories, some of the biases that they deal with, the progress that they have made to achieve what they are or where they are today, and the leader or person they aspire to be. So with that, I'd like to introduce our panel for today. Joining me here in Singapore are Ms. Esther An, who's Chief Sustainability Officer of City Developments Limited, Ms. Donna Hutchings, Head of Asia Pacific, Managing Director of Citco Fund Services, and I'm also pleased to welcome our guests. Joining us live stream, Ms. Angel Tang, Deputy General Manager of COLI. She's based in Shenzhen, China. Ms. Anita George, Sustainability Institutional Investor. She's joining us from India. And also Ms. Akemi Kito-san, who's a tax partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she's based in Tokyo. So with that, okay, ladies, can I get you to introduce yourselves to our audience, describe who you are, what you do, and let's have fun here. Choose 3 words to describe yourself. So let me kick this off. Ask our ladies here in Singapore. Esther, let me start with you.
Wow, 3 words. Crazy about sustainability. 3 words.
Good one.
So, first, welcome to our net zero building here. It's called the Singapore Sustainability Academy. And just now, I just chatted with a couple of visitors here. Their first time here. Just to give a little bit of background, this academy was opened in 2017 June, the World Environment Day, and it was actually designed and built, providing rent-free space for advocacy events and training sessions and all to promote climate action and the UN SDG. So if any partners wants to promote all these good causes, to talk to me or my team here, and very happy to be supporting APREA and also sharing how we can break the bias. And today is the actual International Women's Day.
Thank you, Esther. Donna?
Thank you, Sigrid, for having me today. I really appreciate it. I'll give you a little bit of an intro about myself. I'm Canadian. I'm responsible for Citco's fund administration business here in Asia Pac. So that covers everything on a given day, from a client issue, doing a sales pitch, negotiating with our lease to get our renovations done and things like that. So it's a wide range. Very happy to do that and be part of this today. And a little about myself personally. I'm Canadian. I have lived in Bermuda, Cape Town, New York, Sydney, Dublin, and Singapore. So with that, I have a bit of diversity for cultural diversity as well. And so happy to talk about any of those things. And the 3 words that I put down for describing myself, although sustainability is a good one, I had hardworking, dedicated, and loyal. I've really worked at Citco for 14 and a half years, and before that, HSBC and Bank of Bermuda for 10. So really, always in this industry as well.
Cool. 6 cities, huh? Is that right? Six.
And obviously Canada, two in Canada.
A lot. Okay, let me invite our ladies online. Kito-san, maybe start with you.
Sarah, thank you very much for the introduction. Let me also explain in a very standard way of self-introduction. My name is Akemi Kito, PwC Tax Japan, and I'm a Japanese, and I have lived maybe more than 50 years in Japan. And I have 3 roles in PwC. I'm a leader of the unit of financial services, banking, capital, and asset management section, and also the leader of the tax policy, and also the oversight board member of PwC Japan. But most importantly, I'm a executive board member of APREA Japan. That's why I'm here, and happy to be here. Sarah asked me to describe myself in 3 words. I asked around, and my colleague and my daughter said that maybe passionate, maybe same as all the panelists here, and also the patient as a sort of the Japanese, and also the professional as my career. So all P3 are my description of me. Thank you very much.
Love that. Okay, thank you, Kito-san. Angel, Angel?
Degree. Hello, everyone. I'm Angel Tang from China. I work in China Overseas Land and Investment Limited Company, a top 5 real estate company in China. And I'm responsible for the development and asset management of about 6 million square meter grade 8 office buildings across China in China Overseas Commercial Properties, which has become the largest single ownership office building developer and operator. I may choose perseverant, energetic, and empathetic. And another 3 words I would like to share are a leader, a mom, and a fan. I'm a female leader with a big picture in commercial properties management. I'm a mother of my 5-year-old baby girl, and I love being on the stage, judge in the fun group by hosting, public speaking, dancing, and sports. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
I like that. You are indeed very talented, Angel, huh? And so all are the women here. And last but not the least, Anita, can you just give us a short intro of yourself?
Sure, and I'll stick to the 3 words. So I'm a multi-generational sustainable investor, and I borrow the sustainability passion from Esther and also the empathy factor from Angel, because I think that's one of my strengths. And the investor aspects, which all of the women here represent. I would also say that I've worked and lived in multiple geographies, but the 2 that I have a huge soft spot for are India and Canada.
Thank you. All right. That sounds quite nice. I'm thinking, Donna, maybe something common over there. Okay.
You can always find some common ground.
Alrighty. So let me kick off our discussion for today. The theme of IWD is on breaking the bias. So I'd like to start a question on biases. And can you name 1 or 2 major biases that you have or continue to encounter in your roles in respective countries? It'll be interesting to just have some visibility. I'm wondering if there's going to be any differences, whether you are in Singapore, India, Japan, China, Canada. So maybe I will start off. Okay, I didn't intentionally ask any of the ladies. There's no sequence here, so let me ask Anita, starting with you, if you can name one or two biases, okay, off the top of your head, and we'll go around, and then if you can also share with us what did you do to address them, and any developments that you'd like to see to address those biases. So, Anita?
Thank you. Thank you. Let me start by saying that as an investor, especially if you are a woman who's has a soft voice, I won't go as far as saying soft spoken, but with a soft voice, you often get perceived as not as hard nosed or as exacting or as good an investor as others. So, how did I deal with this bias? I actually embraced it. And some of the proud moments in my life are when the investee company or banker who I have been negotiating with turns around and says to me, you know, you're really sweet and you have this amazing smile, but boy, are you a good negotiator. And I think the thing to do is not to try and be someone else or adapt to some other mold, but to really be your true self, but be very good at what you do, so that those kind of stereotypical labels don't stick. And over the years, that's exactly what I've tried to do. And you know what? After a while, the things that were not considered as important, like empathy or the ability to listen, or even aspects like ESG in investing world, today they've all become strengths. So I can proudly say that my strategy of embracing those biases and being as your best version of yourself, not of anybody else, is the way to go.
How about you, Donna? I'm thinking you negotiate yourself too a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of rings true for me as well. I mean, going through university and earlier in your career, I would say that I was generally considered to be underestimated, and people assumed that you would only be able to deliver so much. So, like Anita, you know, I guess proving them wrong makes me feel good. But you know, when you look at it, sometimes just working hard and looking at what's in front of you, what you can control, taking that step by step. To show what you really can do and being the best part, like you said, the best of you that you can be. But it can be to your advantage, because if you walk in and people assume that you're at one level, but really your knowledge and experience is at another, or that you're going to work so hard to make sure you get to the right answer, then it can really give you an advantage. So for the earlier part of my career, I would say that's where I stood. And that probably helped me move faster, because it was easier to exceed their expectations if you were already underestimated. But you do have to keep that up. And I think as every person does that, it starts to gradually change.
How about you, Esther? What's your experience? I know we discussed this last week, and
I think, all of us are human. We are born to judgmental and sometimes biased without knowing that we are biased. And when you look at someone, it's like, wow, you're so young, are you sure you can do this job? Or, oh, you are so small, are you sure you are strong enough to go to the construction site and talk to the contractor? They will push you aside, So I think when I joined the, building industry 27 years ago, I have encountered a lot of those, walk into a meeting room that's full of all guys, except that, this woman, not very big deal, and then just sit down there, dare not to open my voice and all that. So I think sometimes it's also, you have to beat your own bias, that maybe you are confining yourself, Then you also need to break the bias of other people. And in fact, this is something very, very difficult because, we are born with like some things like, oh, we look at this, oh, so pretty, this girl, oh, this guy is so macho. You tend to judge a person, by the look first. So that in a way, affect your judgment, So I think the first thing that I have learned is like, hey, don't just judge people, by the look, by the exterior. And I think, I was quite shocked that when I came across this report by UNDP, just a couple of years ago, I don't think the data changed a lot, 90% of people, whether men or women, have bias, against female when they look at like judgment on like whether this is, the CEO position is suitable for men or women. 90% of them will be voting against women. So this is some shocking data, actually. So, yeah.
Across all industries?
Yes, it's actually covering 30 countries. So, in fact, it was quite scary, some more, if you look deep into it. In fact, 28% of the people who surveyed feel that it is all right for men to beat women. So I was like, wow, what sort of, data is this? It's quite scary. I mean, having born and raised in Hong Kong and also, spent 20 over years in Singapore. And, these two cities have something that is very, very in common, that is like women have quite good, presence and voices and all that. And we don't really, grow up feeling that we are being suppressed or being, biased against. But again, if you look at, survey, data don't lie. Even up to today, January this year, there's a report, 74% of, women executive who were surveyed feel that it's actually bias in the workplace, 74%. And the highest number actually is in the age group of 18 to 24. So the younger generation feel that they are being, they're actually gender inequality in their workplace. So I think these are the, issues that sometimes, for people like us, we have been a senior executive for the longest time. It's like, I didn't know that it's actually such bias exist. So, but we need to learn, you need to de-learn and relearn. There is actually bias, yeah.
Thanks, Esther. So I'm wondering, is it going to be the same in China? Angel, what's your experience? You travel extensively, you've worked across many cities in China. What's your experience?
I would like to share two bias. One stage bias that I think is relatively common in China, that is during the pregnancy and childbirth, the company and the colleagues are more likely to think that your focus has shifted from work to family. This kind of bias will probably be broken after we return to the workplace, and it usually takes about at least half or 1 year to reprove ourselves. The other bias is that the traditional concept of men are the breadwinners, while women are the homemakers still exists. Female candidates would be more likely to be asked, how would you balance your career and family when they apply for a job? But the same question is rarely asked in the male interviews. Speaking of the first stage bias, first of all, at international level, at the national level, the Chinese government has made corresponding policies to protect women's rights. We have special pay, maternity leave, and preferential treatment of working hours during the postpartum nursing period. And back to my own business in the commercial real estate industry, we have been exploring the further improvement of public facilities and supporting facilities, trying to reduce the burden of working mothers. For example, our new generation of office buildings are 100% equipped with baby care rooms. And we have also set up an international nursery center in our office building, making it possible for working mothers to spend time with their babies during their lunch breaks. And as for my team, the proportion of male and female is currently maintained at about half and half, which is a relatively balanced state. And as a leader, I try my best to treat everyone equally and encourage them, both male and female, to rid out the social imposed labels and tell them that the professional competence is always the strongest weapon in the workplace. And I'm so grateful for having APREA to provide such an international platform where women leadership can be acknowledged and celebrated so as to inspire and empower more women and girls.
Well, thank you, Angel. Just a quick question, follow-up question to you before I ask Kito-san here. Now, the 50-50, it just struck me. Is that by design? Was there any policy in place that your COLI has put together to make sure that both are represented, in the organization? So,
Well,
was there a
actually,
policy that was put in place?
it's not a certain policy, and actually, what I meant half and half is in the commercial properties management, but in the real estate management, I think it's about just maybe 3 to 7 or 2 to 8. I think that's the difference between industries.
Okay.
Just because maybe in China more female will be good at the commercial management, commercial properties management. So that's the data appear on the company that I work in.
Okay. Thank you. Because
Actually, there's not a certain policy.
Okay, no, that's fine. Because here in Singapore, I think we have it reversed. I think we have more. I think a split between female and male for the property markets, not so bad. I think for the general workforce, but for the leadership team, it's still quite a small proportion, I would say. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, within
Okay.
our organization, we do really have 50-50. We do monitor it, but we don't have a
Okay.
policy. So we monitor it, but it's not 50-50 across every level.
Everything. Okay.
Right?
Right.
So, there are lots of women in the senior management positions, but it's not exactly 50-50 yet.
Okay. Yeah, we do have to monitor it. But
yeah.
yeah. Well, let me ask Kito-san here, because in Japan it's also it's changing now, wherein women are being encouraged to go back to the workforce just because you've got a very tight unemployment rate in Japan. So, Kito-san, can you share with us your experience, as one of the top female leaders in your organization? What are the biases, one or two things that you have experienced? And obviously, what are you doing to address them?
Oh, well, interesting enough, even though the country is different, the bias I also encountered is the same as all other panelists mentioned. One is that the female is perceived as a sort of maybe assistant role rather than the leader's role. And the second one is the sort of the maternity bias, as others has mentioned. So for about the first bias that females are more like a supporters rather than a leader, when I became a tax partner about maybe almost 20 years ago, there was very few female partner. And whenever we go out for a meeting, maybe in Japan, there is a custom of exchanging name card before the start of the meeting in the seniority order from the top to the younger ones. And also there's an order where to sit in the meeting room. I am almost all the cases, the clients trying to hand over the name card first to my younger managers rather than to me, and lead him to the most senior position. And they look at the name card and, oh, I made a mistake. Let me change. And that kind of maybe struggle always happens in the first 3 or 4 minutes. But now the clients also have a senior management class, and we also do. So this is now just a funny story, and not so much as of now. The most serious one is that the maternity one. In the past, there were very few opportunities for women to be hired at the same position as that of men. And I myself had a very hard time getting a job when I get graduated the university, and also when I changed a job after taking the CPA license, it was really hard to find a job. The interviewer said, "How can you work with your babies?" That's also the direct questions at that time. Nowadays, that kind of a direct question cannot be asked. And also the government and also the companies are supposed to back up women. And therefore, in PwC, about 50% or more than 50% is women for the newly graduates, younger associates. Having said so, when we look at the ratio of the managers or even up to the partners or the management level, it decreases to 20% or even less to the 10% if it is really up to the manager level, management level. Maybe partly because it may take time to go up to the higher ranking. But in any way, this is area we have to strive forward and have pay more attention. I really wanted to have a cooperation from other countries too on this area. Back to you, Sigrid.
So I guess being Canadian, and as we're on this particular topic, in Canada, legally it can be the mom or the dad to take the leave, and the mom or dad can split it, but you can't take it at the same time. So interesting on this twist, my husband actually took the leave when we had our daughter. So, I guess opening it up to a wider that everybody does have biases and different perspectives. We were here in Singapore where it isn't actually the law, but we both work at the same company for full disclosure. So I sort of negotiated that dynamic, and they were like, okay. But it is a different dynamic even for men. But if I wasn't Canadian and this wasn't the law back home, would I have actually even thought that we could switch this? But when you're there, this is something that people do. And then I can say that men sometimes also then have that dynamic. I haven't seen that many. It's a smaller percentage that do that. We have had people do it in our Toronto office where the men have taken, 6 months or 12 months off at home with their kids. So it is a changing and evolving, and hopefully we'll all get to that sort of place where it will be based on, your home dynamics as opposed to even, that the law is that if someone's going to stay home, it has to be the mother. So I thought that I'd add as an interesting twist to the regional dynamic.
I think I've heard some companies, Singapore being a regional hub, I think there are some companies that are looking at that, Donna. I'm not sure if that's going to take off. We have to see because, culturally, it's still not the norm, right? But I think if we have some companies that can take the lead, who knows, right?
Yeah. It takes everybody to make that, it is a personal decision, I think,
Right.
for the household. But being able to offer that, I think, is a good dynamic for all places, because it can be either person that can actually be the primary caregiver.
Right. Well, it's a great segue here for the second question I have. So, if you guys have heard glass ceilings, or could it be, for me, sticky floor, right? So, we've heard this phrase like many women have had challenges like breaking the glass ceiling for years. I've heard Hillary Clinton say that so many times when she lost, right? But then, question is it really what's holding us back, women? Really just a sticky floor, or what? So I wanted to ask our women here, not putting Esther on the spot, is it glass ceiling or sticky floor for you? And the second question I have to ask, because self-doubt, have you even dealt with that in your career? You're super confident, always on stage. I always see you everywhere. The sustainability champion. And just wondering.
I was not so. Now, with practice, the skin is getting very thick now. The first time I was on stage, my legs were shivering. That was 10 over years ago. So I think for glass ceiling, yes, I still feel that there is glass ceiling. Yeah, and I think just now we talked about ratio. I think we always, quote this joke by our CEO. He said, yeah, CDL is actually not very balanced in gender equality. We have more women than men. We have 68% of women, employee in CDL, and then about 50% head of departments level. But when you move up, to the ladder and even board level, which is quite common, in most companies, if not all, that especially the board diversity and, board composition is also an area that SJX, the stock exchange is looking into it. And, but I think, just curious about the maternity leave thing. That there are certain things men can't do. As a mom, you need to feed your baby. So I think the maternity leave, at least the first few months, you need to breastfeed your baby, so the man can't do. So in a way, there's certain bonding. I think I'm quite traditional in that sense, being a mom of two. I still feel that, the first 3 months of bonding is quite important. And of course, guys, men definitely can help. But being man, my husband just say, you just tell me what to do. Don't throw a tantrum. I don't know what should I do, So sometimes you have to tell men what you need them to do. So I think glass ceiling, sticky floor, again, is also part of it. It's actually self-imposing in a way. Yeah, so I also, quote another study that a lot of lady CEO actually never expect them to be a CEO. Okay, it's more like, incidental or, when they rise up. And I think for glass ceiling and all that, yes, it's about competence gap or confidence gap. It could be whether you have the confidence to think, yeah, I want to be for that position. And but there's certain position also require you to give more time and probably sometimes more traveling and more commitment. So it's something that you'll have to strike that balance. And how do we break that ceiling? And it's also very important for the company's culture. If you have the leadership commitment, the culture that they believe in, they don't look at whether gender is a decision for certain position. Yeah, or for promotion or for development or training. So that will help. So I think, working for CDL for 27 years, I would, vouch for it, that we are given very, very equal opportunities, but of course, as a mother of two, if there's certain, traveling that I do not wish to go, it's also up to me when I was, the younger mother then. So, but you need to fight for it. You need to, make your voices, felt if you really think that there are certain positions that I'm good enough for that. Yeah.
Well, let me ask Anita, is it glass ceiling for you or is sticky floor?
I would say both. Both operate at different parts of your career. So when, as Esther just described, when you're a young mother, I remember so many instances where you had to make tough choices, and one chose in many instances family, or you chose actually sleeping less as an alternative to being able to demonstrate and deliver at work just as much as home. So I think the sticky floor aspects continued for the early years. However, the glass ceiling really comes into play as you rise up. And it's not just so much of a literal glass ceiling. It is that things become so much more difficult for you to be able to, deliver at that level, that a lot of women, and I've seen this in many institutions, whether in the World Bank, in IFC, in CDPQ, as they start going up the ladder, there is a fear that anyways, they're not going to be able to smash the glass ceiling. So is it really worth it? My philosophy personally, not just for myself, but also for many of my younger colleagues, is to try your best to smash that glass ceiling for several reasons. One, they've been women before us who've done that, who've made it easier and made the floor less sticky and the glass ceiling more penetrable. So it's in some ways a responsibility on us to do the same for the women who come after us. The second reason is that really, I think women have so much to offer. There's so much of research which shows that if you tap the full potential of women in every economy in the world, the global GDP would be higher by 27 to 30%. So, in a world which is running out of resources, where we have really hard constraints in terms of supporting humanity, not to mention flora and fauna, I think getting women to be able to participate in the workforce is very important. One thing that COVID has taught us is that we can afford a lot more flexibility in terms of working and being able to deliver effectively. And I think the men have also discovered that they can be just as productive being at home, keeping one eye on their kid, and yet being able to contribute. And I think that's been a big awakening to both men as well as men and women leaders, that people can be productive while they do their other responsibilities as a human being and as a member of society. The third reason I would say is that being able to break those glass ceilings is so important, because that's what, when you have more diversity at the top, that's what helps you have the attributes of resilience, of being able to predict better, of being able to anticipate the needs of not just half the population, but the whole 100% of the population. And I think these are all aspects which really will help us make the workplace a better place, not just for women, but for both men and women. The last point I'll make, since it was mentioned about paternity leave, it is very, very critical. And I love Donna's sharing her experience that, it's very important for fathers to be able to bond with their children. And in fact, when you look at situations where the fabric of society has been torn or damaged, it's usually where that bond between father and child has not developed or has been shattered. And therefore, I think even from a more stable society point of view, you need both men and women to have the bond with the next generation.
Okay, thanks, Anita. That would have been a great segue for my next question, but I would like to ask first, Angel, glass ceiling or sticky floor for you?
I think glass ceiling, especially from the perspective of the main business sectors of Chinese real estate industry. The proportion of women leader is indeed not that high, maybe less than 10%. When there is a vacant leader position is coming out, they always not give priority to women candidates. I have a lot of great women leaders around me, but the board may treat each one as an individual case. It's not about women leadership. It's about individual cases. So when there comes a vacant leader position, they will consider the man first. That's what I experienced. But in this situation, especially in this cycle of Chinese real estate industry, I think both men and women will encounter the sitting issue. We all need to. I always say to myself, I need to be more patient. I need perseverance to go through this tough time and prove myself. I saw this data that was very is very exciting that uh, the report saying that in 2017 only a quarter of the world's senior positions were held by women, and this year it's finding that despite the impact of pandemic, the proportion of female executives has risen to 32%. I think that's great. It's a uplifting result, I think.
Okay. Thank you so much, Angel. How about you, Kito-san?
Thank you. I really, again, thought that the comments are the same all over the world. And especially I agree with the Anita's comment that there should be both the glass ceiling and also the sticky floor. But when I think of the more younger women, sticky floor should be the most problematic. Mostly it is said that women is not ambitious enough to be promoted. But when I really maybe ask their view, what they are worrying about is the working conditions. They cannot work until late at night at the office, and they have to, take the balance, life and work. So as far as these working conditions are maintained, the women still has a very good, performer and has lots of ambitions to go up. So first we have to solve the sticky floor, make it nicer. But currently, we all talked about a lot of the paternity leave. The COVID had made it nicer, I also think. In PwC Japan, even in Japan, more than 50% of male and staffs take the paternity leave at not 1 year or so, but just only for about a month. But still, it is really amazing. More than half takes a paternity leave. And when we have a web meeting, we always hear the babies crying or their wives are working around. And that's really nice that COVID had made the male work employees to maybe think about their family more than before. So I think this is a good trend, that sticky floor, if both men and women have more, equal footing on the working conditions, this could be moved forward. So for about the glass ceiling, partly because it has a long history, it's just only maybe this few years that women should be promoted at certain level. So we have to be patient to break that glass again. But maybe in Japan, we are seeing good seeing that the government and the companies are trying to achieve the certain level of women management. So currently, we see many young female leaders coming up. So that really would be a very good chance for our female leaders. So again, we should wait and see it and support. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, Kito-san. So both glass ceiling and sticky floor. And Donna, I wanted to ask you specifically the second question I have, because you have lived pretty much like more than half of your life overseas. And your roles have been like increasingly progressive in terms of responsibilities. I'm wondering how you handled all of these things. Would you say it's a combination to glass ceiling and also sticky floor in your case, or just which one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only natural that everybody has a sticky floor. I don't think it's we own the monopoly on that. Everybody has to have some self-doubt at some point. We're all human, right? So when I was talking with someone in the audience earlier, I think one of the things that helped me actually probably progress my career was actually making those moves from location to location. I was really only looking at how to get to my next step in honesty, right? And I also did want to travel the world. So, when I looked at what I needed to do, I think there weren't always that many people who also put their hand up to take on a new task and to look at going to a place and relocating and all of the joys that can come with that, which are both positive and can be trying. So I think that helped with that glass ceiling because I was there willing to put up. And as each move, I showed that I was competent to do that and therefore got the opportunity for the next move. Because somebody once asked me, are you afraid that there won't be a next position? And I said, no, if I work hard and I try, there'll always be another opportunity for me. But to say that there was no sticky floor, because there are times that I remember looking at my male colleagues and they're bonding on something. They're going to the golf course. They're getting more information. They had better access to information because there was a similarity amongst them and they weren't doing it necessarily intentionally. It was they were part of their being and how they interacted. So you have to then go, well, if I want the same opportunities, I have to get access to the same information and create a different channel because my golf is very bad. And to be able to get access to that information. But at times there's a lot of self-doubt when it comes to like, how was he able to do that, right? So I do think you have to think differently, but it can actually help you become a better leader and a better person when you go around and experience different cultures and look for that new challenge, because you should learn something new every day. Small, big, that should be a goal. And if you're not challenging yourself to find out something new in the news or whatever the case may be.
I mean, I completely understand. I have also relocated. This is my third stint. So I moved to the United States and then came here. Never easy, but things you got to do, right? So next question, hearing all of you, this research that Pew came out mentioned and stated, women leaders are perceived as being more compassionate, empathetic, and able to work out compromises. And in my experience during this whole crisis, last 2 years of COVID, these are among the leadership traits that are necessary to rethink a post-pandemic workplace. Now, I'd like to ask you ladies quickly, okay, because we only have about 35 minutes left here and we have a number of questions coming in from our live stream audience. I'd like to accommodate them. And one fun question too at the end that I have for you, okay, but I do want to ask this question because we have a lot of female in the audience who would like to learn from you. So how did you project, or how do you project yourself as a decisive, competent leader in your respective roles, especially in having to deal with very difficult situations? I've heard about Esther a while ago saying, well, there's this bias about women looking fragile, which is really true. I experienced that. I'm very petite. People see me as fragile, but you can't, as a leader, we don't think that way, right? So I just wanted to ask this question to you first, Esther.
Is quite biased by itself. I also know a lot of male leaders. They are very compassionate and empathetic. I don't think only women leaders, play that role. And then also, in fact, there was also another study showing that women leaders, women CEO, do better in terms of profitability and score better in terms of, R&D and all that. So it need not to be just during crisis. So I think this question already a little bit biased, And then I think for women, if judging from my own experience, sometimes you don't know your limit. You can do better than you are stronger than you are. I still remember 3 years ago, I was in Israel. I arrived, but my luggage did not arrive. And then after 20 over hours, I almost collapsed already. So and then the next day I need my my suit and my notes and everything, especially my contact lens to go on stage. So that evening was like, okay, breathe. And what do I do, And in a country that my first time being in, Tel Aviv, I was like, where is the shopping mall? Okay, I need to hit the mall to get whatever I need, And so it was a challenge, but I was glad that I didn't break down and cry. And it's like, okay, let's deal with it. Yeah, so I think sometimes you don't know what is your limit and what you are capable of, until you are tested. So whether men or women, I think, it applies to. But women, in a way, actually just talking about COVID, I think I have learned also. Honestly, I have always been a workaholic. I also expect this, quite high expectation for my staff. But these 2 years, I have learned to trust people. I don't need to see the person, to believe that he or she is working, or he or she, so long as they deliver. So you have to give that trust to people. And I'm also changing my lifestyle also. I normally, when I left office, it was like you never seen the sun. But over these past 2 years, I make it a point that about 6-something, 6:30, sorry guys, I need 1 hour to go for my evening walk. I need sanity, because otherwise back-to-back meeting, you can just, stand there or sit there for the whole day from 9 to 6. So I said, I need a break, that I need to go, for a walk, and then I come back and continue. So I think people learn to be flexible in crisis situation like that, which is quite unprecedented. And I also see, one analyst moderating a session with a 7-year-old boy sitting next to him. So it's like, it would never happen in the past. So it's like, COVID really taught us a lot of things can be possible. Yeah.
So you mentioned flexibility and balance. How about you, Donna?
Well, like Esther, work-life balance has always been a struggle for me. But, now it's more of a struggle, I think, for everybody. And that has got me as well to think about it. So I've had more family dinners with my family in the last 2 years probably than the 5 years before that, because I now just have to leave. I can make that point. I schedule it in. I found it hard to make that transition that made other people's life easier, to leave and go home. I got home every night for bedtime, but dinner might have been out there. I think that we have learned that you don't have to be there all the time. Everything isn't urgent. And we have to now help create that dynamic for our staff, because as we create that flexibility, and Esther goes back to work at 7 and sends out all her emails till maybe midnight, there are people on the other end who chose a different dynamic, maybe to work straight through, right? So we now have to go, how do we manage that flexibility and be able to manage it in the context of people choosing different lifestyles and different times, as long as they get the deliverables done and not add extra pressure to people. So that is a dynamic, I think, that we all have a duty now to be able to create that and create the workforce that can handle that sort of dynamic, and make sure we learn what's urgent, what's not urgent, and that people know those dynamics, because it can be hard. If I email at 11:30, someone might go, she must need that answer now, but it's just when I'm getting to doing it, because when my daughter goes to bed at 9, I go back to work every night. Yeah.
Angel, how about you? I'm thinking China was among the first ones, obviously, to come out of this, how to live with COVID. And I do remember you about a year and a half ago when we were doing these webinars. You were explaining to us like what your company was doing. And I thought it was pretty amazing that you were taking the charge for this. Maybe can you share with us, how did you go through this, having to project yourself as a competent, decisive leader during this difficult period of transitioning out of living with COVID?
Okay, I think we are living the VUCA world today. Just like Cody from Forrest Gump, life was like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're gonna get. So under this impact of this pandemic and also the market changes, I think we all need to adjust our thinking and status. So timely review may be a good habit at work. make some reflection and accumulation of experience. And I always tell myself that don't forget to see and get the bright spots from people around you. Let theirs be yours. And as a leader, I still need to reasonably provide stages and opportunities to create values for them. And and I always tell myself that leadership was always comes with responsibility, even more grievance and loneliness. So be patient and self-driven, and self-recognition can help achieve our greater self. And when it comes to the difficult times, I would like to enjoy my sports, I should say. Uh, at this point, I really want to thank my mom because she has nurtured me a lot of hobbies. And when I engage and immerse myself in the things I love, my negative emotions will quickly disappear. Um, just as I mentioned in my self-introduction, I'm a big fan of dancing, Pilates, and swimming. And no matter how busy I am, I will make time to work out and release my dopamine. I'm sure this is also the best way to keep us radiant and beautiful. And the benefit from the pandemic, I should say, I cannot travel a lot. So I will have more time to accompany my baby girl. So I shouldn't say it's a benefit, but actually it benefits me. I could spend more time with her and like the online courses and to see her progress. Um, and just as you mentioned that when she go to sleep and then I can work, I can check my email, something else, but it could be more balanced than ever before. And of course, we have improved a lot of working facilities and like this kind of Zoom meetings, we still can be efficient to fix into this kind of post-pandemic time.
Thank you, Angel. I think we're getting a lot of questions, but what I can glean from everyone's answers, family time. I have a question on self care, but it seems like everyone has kind of made reference to self care through sports, walking, family time, dancing, Pilates, and swimming. And how about you, Kito-san, and also Anita? Maybe Kito-san first before I actually ask the questions from our audience here. And also here in Singapore, you're free to ask questions, okay? So Kito-san?
Well, for about the what we learned from pandemic is that during the pandemic that we couldn't see our colleague face to face, just only virtually. That makes us more maybe difficulty in communication. Having said so, we had more time to care each other. I myself, when I was at the office, I just go up to my colleague or the managers or staffs and ask them what I want to ask. But currently, we have to care what they are doing right now. That means that I myself will try to schedule what I should do and what I shouldn't before doing something. So that is a sort of the care for others, and that might be the area that women are good at. So for that part, compassionate to others might help for the leadership, and especially when deciding something, the most important is to understand the counterparty. And if we have a compassionate to counterparty, we can have a much more maybe confidence in deciding in a really like a managed manner, very quickly in a very decisive way. So I think that will help the women's leadership too. So for about the what I do when I'm not working as same as others. I will go out for walking or go out for gym with a trainer who is like my son's age. I don't have son, but my daughter's age. So good for health and good for maybe good for heart too. And also the thing I can do during this pandemic is one of my hobbies is to wear kimono and go for walking or a restaurant. So I really hope that COVID will be ended soon. And I really hope all the panelists come to my hometown, the Kyoto, and let's go out for restaurants together. That's for me.
Thank you, Kito-san. I hope also that we all recover from this COVID very, very soon. But it's just so nice to hear that all of you women or ladies are making sure that there is balance. And Anita, I don't want you to have like the last word here, but you will have the last word before I actually address the questions we're getting from the audience. Okay, Anita, maybe just
Thank
your
you.
thoughts. Yeah.
Thank you, Sigrid. So, just one point on COVID and leadership. I realized that one has to do Zooms that actually connect you person to person. And we started doing happy hours by Zoom. Sounds almost like an oxymoron, but we went ahead and did it. And actually, what I learned, like with a lot of my women colleagues, we often did talk about our children, or about our families, or about what challenges we faced at home. But I realized through COVID that I probably spoke much less to my male colleagues about such issues. And by connecting socially by Zoom, I started discovering that a lot of my male colleagues faced similar challenges of, having younger kids, having to help with homework, this and that. And so, one, I think it helped our communication, and it's a lesson for me to take into the physical world, is that we spend as much time getting to know what we are as human beings, not just in our professional lives. What I do for relaxation is yoga, and I've been a yoga practitioner for many years. And one of the things that COVID actually makes you realize is it's not just body, it's body, mind, as well as soul. And that's something yoga does. So I would highly recommend it to everyone as a way to really get in touch with yourself and have the energy and mental calmness to connect with others, whether virtually or physically.
Thank you, Anita. But I have to ask you this question. I am a yoga fanatic myself. What is your favorite pose? Do you do a headstand? I'm wondering.
No,
I hope
I'm
not.
not that advanced, but I think the Cobra Pose is one of my favorites,
Oh,
and I truly believe that
that's
despite
tough.
staring at a screen for so many hours,
Right,
I've
right.
still maintained my neck
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
doing that regularly. And again, something I recommend
Like a
to
sun solution.
everyone. Yes, yes.
All right.
And
I didn't mean to put you.
you now you have a lot of desk yoga versions as well. So the
Right,
YouTube is
right.
populated with all kinds of lessons.
I need to crack this joke.
Okay, go
I,
ahead, go
I,
ahead.
I attended this yoga lesson with my husband. After 6 months, his best favorite pose is the corpse pose. Once he lie down, he will fall asleep.
Yes, yes. That's my second favorite.
That's the most relaxing pose, right? It's my favorite pose too after a very hard yoga class, right? Who doesn't like that,
Like a
right?
corpse, right?
I just had to ask it. I'm not an advanced yoga person myself, but that is the aspiration. And it's a great segue. I'd like to open this up to our audience. Our panelists here are so game to share so many personal and professional things in their lives. But let me address one question from our live stream audience. Ladies, just raise your hand. Any one of you who would like to answer. I think Rodrigo has shared also this with our panelists online. So the first one is, would it be possible to change the perspective of future generations by bringing up the next generation without biasness in schools so that they can practice it when they grow up and work in organizations? Bias-free world.
I think it's very difficult. Again, judgmental is something that, we all
Human
need to
nature.
learn. I still remember primary one, I went, the teacher told me that, oh, your daughter likes to dream, don't know where, which Mars, which planet is she, So, but actually, my daughter grew up, loved to write, loved to dream, because that is the traits. So what I hope that teacher can see beyond, the front, that a student like to dream, like to, imagine things, doesn't mean that she's not learning. Yeah, the teacher should actually take advantage of certain traits of students and, help them groom, the strength. Yeah.
I agree. Everybody is different. We all come with our own biases. I guess the thing that I would be encouraging is decide to be open-minded. That it comes with, everybody comes with some history of what you know or what you don't know. And if you take that second to, even if you have to ask, would you be open to another perspective or something on that? That is what will actually help change it, because isn't that really what we're all talking about? Being able to get a lot of different perspectives. So we all have our own biases, but if we're open, we can come up with the best solution overall. So, and I really do hope that, for people like us, our kids, like I think my daughter would think that it would be perfectly normal to be, a CEO or something. I don't even think she thinks that it would be any glass ceiling. And I hope that we can continue to, create that as we create an open-minded culture.
Ladies, any thoughts? Angel, Kito-san, Anita, anything to add? Is it possible
just
to
checked
raise?
that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just checked that in Guangdong province that I live, has incorporated gender balancing into education, which is a good start. And before, gender equality education was not included in the school curriculum. Gender awareness was weak and gender discrimination was serious. Now it is included in the school, indicated that the government has begun to pay attention to the issue of gender equality and improve gender awareness through education. And this can promote gender this can promote gender equality at the source, although a relatively complete model has been formed. It remains to be seen whether it can be implemented and how effective it will be. I will share that information for you.
Thank you for that. Anything to share, Kito-san or Anita? Otherwise, I can also open these up to our audience here in Singapore. Who's okay? All right. I think we've got two questions here. Two women who would like to raise questions. If you can introduce yourself.
Hi, am I audible? Hey, hi, I'm Swati. I'm from Blackstone. My question is for Anita. There was a lot of discussion about self-doubt and women always second-guessing. And personally, I also face that. So as a young professional in an investment environment, what would be your advice? How do you condition yourself and how do you sort of break free from this self-inflicted bias that you have?
Excellent question, Swati. And I think the first step is recognizing what you've just articulated, because very often, and I've seen that in many of my younger colleagues, that they will tend to doubt themselves and equally I've seen younger male colleagues who don't have a shred of doubt about themselves. So I've also wondered about this, and I think there are a couple of basic things one can do, which apply for both men and women, but I think in particular to give ourselves the confidence really to prepare super well, to go into any situation, any room, very, very well versed in what you are going to represent or say, read all the documentation beforehand, because I can tell you that nothing impresses people more than that when you know what you're talking about. The second thing I would say is try and get over some of the things that all of us are kind of brought up with, a form of false modesty that, oh, whoa, I don't know enough, everybody else knows more than me. No, one has to stop doing that. And I tell you that I even catch myself doing that even now after all these years. So I have this sort of mental exercise before I go into any type of situation, including this one, to say, look, don't be unduly modest. Be factual, share what you can, be transparent, but don't try and show yourself down. And I see a lot of women, even very important women, starting their sentences saying, I don't know much about this, but, or maybe I don't have the right answer, but. So I think we have to correct ourselves and start doing that. And the third thing I would say is that very often, and this is something actually my dad told me. He said, because I was fretting before some important meeting, and he told me that, look, you know this better than most people, so go in there with that attitude, and you will find that you will do well. The last thing I would say is that often when people go into a meeting, they come prepared with what they want to say, and I myself have done that very often based on my dad's advice and other people's advice. However, I would also add a corollary, which is listen very carefully, because sometimes what other people are saying can give you a clue and a cue to be able to step in and show what you are capable of. So, Swati, keep practicing, you'll get good at it. And also to share with you that it doesn't completely go away, but it keeps you at your best.
Right, thank you. So key preparation, very important. And okay, next question. Okay, I think our live stream audience didn't get your question. The first one is, ladies, if you can comment, maybe share with everyone here quickly who your male role model is. So I think men as allies. And then the second question is on having this kind of forum. Shouldn't we be holding it so we can support each other? But which is interesting, your question, because there's a live stream question here that we receive asking if shouldn't be the goal is not to have this type of forum someday, or would like 5 to 10 years. Um, okay, maybe let's start off number one. Men as our, who's your role model? Maybe start off quickly here, Esther,
A quick
then
one.
Donna.
I think having this type of forum, nothing is wrong with this, but you
Right.
know, you look at the depth or the scope. I still remember 20 years ago, the hottest topic is like, is CSR a fad or, you know,
Right,
yeah, a
right.
reality and all that. But today, nobody talk about CSR anymore.
Right,
It's talk about sustainability and talk about what is the, you know, how to do it rather than why you do it. So I think this type of forum is really good that in one session I can hear, you know, practices from India, Japan, China, you know, 6 cities from Donna. I thought it is really wonderful. And communication is very key, you know, for us to learn from each other. And then secondly is about men. I think, you know, apart from my father, of course, you know, my mentor, you know, I shared this story for many years already. When I first joined CDL, my managing director, who's actually, you know, passed away in 2015, he believed in me because actually when I joined the sector, I have very little, almost zero experience in real estate. So he's someone who showed that he believed in people who have the passion. And he also taught me something that when you succeed, when you know, win some award or whatever, don't let it get into your head, right? And you know, when you fail, also don't let it, you know, get into your heart. So I think these are very, very useful, you know, a learning lesson from him. And he is really a nature lover and also a CSR leader. So I learned a lot from him. And then after he left me, you know, left the company, actually I charged forward and I still remember his learning, you know, the lessons that I learned from him.
All right, okay. Great. Donna, quickly, just your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with like Esther. I do hope that one day we've moved past and into a new thing, right? And that it might be more diversity overall than just, you know, because there are a lot of different perspectives out there. So I do hope that we can do that. And I do think that we need to, you know, mentor, you know, women or men, right, who want to actually learn and bring people along that journey with us, right? And it can be under the guise of just regular mentorship or something more. I do think we have a responsibility to everyone to actually participate in that way. I've actually had a couple of men that have helped me throughout my career, and they were able to, they weren't really looking at me necessarily as a woman or not. They were just, you're doing a good job, I like it, and being supportive. And I found that that was actually quite helpful and opened up doors for me, one at Citgo and one at Bank of Bermuda when I worked there. And I think your parents also, my dad said you can do whatever you want. So I'm from a town of like 400 people. So, you know, there's 400 people in our office here in Singapore. So, you know, if you start with that assumption and have good supportive at home, I think then you can be open-minded for that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Kito-san, how about you? Do you have any role, model, male model or mentor?
Yes, the the this mentor was my boss who hired me, even though I had a lots of disadvantage, and who make me work in a efficient lifestyle that I can. And I really had a lot for him. Having said so, I also have another ally at my home, who is my husband. He didn't do anything about the paternity leave, or he didn't take care of my children going to the nursery school, but he strongly supported me whenever I do. And his support was very good assistance for me to going up. So it is very important to find an ally, both at the office and also at the home. But more importantly, maybe we may have to be ally for others, as no everyone cannot be lucky enough to find an ally. So maybe our office is trying to have a mentor system, and I really hope that every other company will also try to do so, so that females can find a good supporter to promote it to the right level, and someday no International Women's Day. I also hope.
Well, I
Thank you.
do enjoy having International Women's Day, but hopefully someday the forum will just be a regular one rather than a once a year thing. But Angel, I'd like to hear yourself. Any role, any mentor, male mentor in your life?
Okay, I do want to share my opinions about the International Women's Day first. I think these days will last forever, but people will treat these days will differently, like Dad's Day, Mom's Day, just celebration. Nothing about the gender, nothing about them, whether we have bias or whether we are stronger or weaker, just celebration. Just like Christmas, just like Happy New Year's, a day to celebration. I think that will be like that, and it will last forever. I don't think that if these days goes away, then we can be a totally balanced or the same, but you lose a very beautiful festival that we can, talk together, happy hour, flowers, gifts. I like that. I think that the future will become like this one, just like, a normal festival for celebration. And the mentor, my boss, my leader, my colleagues, I think they are nice, and they do not treat me specially. When they say Angel, I'm one of their colleagues. Maybe I'm a man, I'm a woman, nothing about gender. So we can be good partners at work, discuss business issues in timely manner, and respect each other's opinions. But when it comes to life, they can understand the difference between men and women. So I think they respect the she power. And when it comes back to my family, I should say my husband is my, she's always thinks in my shoes. So no matter how strong or how tough or how weak, how I can say anything to her, to him, and he will just give me some warm reflection, and I can be a small little girl to him. So I can be totally relaxed when I come back home. I think that's very important for a female leader. You must find a place that you can be totally relaxed. You don't need to think anything.
Right.
Just yourself, or even without yourself. That's my share.
I completely agree with you, Angel. I know we only have 1 to 2 minutes here before wrap up, and just to straight the records, to actually set the record straight here to our men friends here in the audience. Men are our allies also, not only at home but in the workplace. So we do have to work together well. And I do want to end with one last question. Well, one word, please, from all of you ladies, okay? One leadership principle, okay, that you can share. I know Anita had to leave for another meeting. Leadership principle that you can share with our audience here and also our live stream audience, one only that you think has helped you where you are today. Maybe Donna, one only, one leadership principle.
Yeah, I would just have to say it's being empathetic about and appreciating other people's differences and really considering being open-minded as you go forward in that.
Empathetic, open-minded. Esther?
Well, believe in possibilities, yeah. With
Okay.
dream, there are a lot of things can be done.
So we have to break that glass ceiling, right? And Angel, how about you? One leadership principle.
Just one. Can I have two?
I can give you two, sure.
Thank you. I think big picture and personal influence, and always say, look beyond your title.
Good. How about you, Kito-san?
Well, it's work together and achieve the goal. Maybe trust is the key for us.
Right. Okay. Well, Great stuff. And for me, I think leadership principle is about, for me, the one that works well is serving all of you. Uh, I think that's the key principle of being a leader. So thank you, everyone, especially our panelists here, Esther, Donna, Angel, Kito-san, and of course, Anita, who just had to leave for another meeting. For taking the time to have this conversation, very candid one, sharing your stories. I know some of them are very personal and very grateful for that. Hopefully, we'll get to do this in person very soon. Of course, I'd like to thank our partners, City Developments Limited and the Singapore Sustainability Academy for making this event possible. And to our live audience and dear viewers around the world, whether you are on Zoom or LinkedIn, thank you so much for tuning in and spending your afternoon with us. I hope that you all found this conversation to be useful and took away some important lessons and draw some inspiration from everyone's stories today. May I also invite you to share your favorite quote, so many quotes today, sound bites, lessons from our panel discussion. Please feel free to write your comments. We are on LinkedIn. This is actually live on LinkedIn. The recording will be there as well. By sharing your voice, we are pushing toward a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive future. So thank you. Happy International Women's Day, and I'll see you again soon.